130 sailors, one steel tube, roughly 70 days underwater with no sunlight, no fresh air, and nowhere to go. You'd think the biggest threat on a nuclear submarine would be enemy torpedoes or reactor casualties. But there's a quieter enemy the Navy takes just as seriously: boredom. After reviewing submarine operations, speaking with former submariners, and examining Navy research on morale and performance, one thing becomes clear. Fighting boredom underwater isn't just about passing time, it's about safety. When boredom sets in hundreds of feet below the surface, sailors lose focus. They zone out on watch, they rush maintenance, and in an environment where one mistake can damage equipment or endanger the crew, boredom becomes an operational risk. The ways submariners fight this threat range from smart to strange to downright absurd, and some of them might surprise you. The reality of submarine boredom. Let me paint a picture of what boredom actually looks like on a submarine. You wake up in a rack barely bigger than a coffin, stacked 3 high, with so little headroom you can't sit up. The air smells like recycled sweat, machinery, and whatever the galley is cooking. You have no idea if it's day or night because you haven't seen the sun in weeks. You stand your watch, usually about 8 hours, monitoring the same gauges, walking the same passageways, checking the same equipment you checked yesterday and the day before that. Then you have 8 hours off. Except it's never really off. And you eat in the mess decks, the main shared space on the boat. You clean because everyone cleans every day. You study for qualifications, reviewing system diagrams, walking spaces, and getting quizzed by senior sailors until your brain feels fried. Only after all of that do you get maybe an hour or 2 of personal time. And you're sharing that space with 129 other people who are just as tired, just as confined, and just as desperate for something to break the routine. This is where boredom stops being uncomfortable and starts becoming dangerous. The Navy understands this. They've studied long-term confinement and monotony at sea. They know boredom doesn't just hurt morale, it hurts performance. A bored sailor is less alert. A bored sailor makes more mistakes. Boredom contributes to stress, fatigue, and burnout. So fighting boredom isn't a luxury, it's a requirement. Why submarine boredom is different. What makes submarine boredom different is the lack of escape. You can't step outside, you can't get fresh air, you can't change scenery, you can't drive somewhere or meet new people. You're sealed inside a tube about 33 feet wide with the same crew, breathing recycled air, eating the same rotating meals for weeks or months at a time. That constant confinement creates psychological pressure most people will never experience. So submariners have developed their own ecosystem of boredom-fighting tactics. Some are officially supported by the Navy, some are tolerated, and some exist entirely because sailors needed something to keep their sanity. Let's start with the official side. The official Navy solution. Every submarine has a recreation services officer and a recreation fund custodian. These are formal roles under the Navy's morale, welfare, and recreation program. They manage real funds, often generated by the ship's store, to buy games, movies, fitness equipment, and prizes. The mess decks become the boat's living room. Berthing is cramped and noisy, so most off-duty time happens there. There are TVS and movie marathons. Some crews watch entire film franchises or full seasons of shows. It's binge-watching, submarine style, with no phones, no internet, and no way to leave if the show turns out terrible. Console gaming is everywhere. Multiple generations of systems hooked up to shared TVs, informal tournaments between watch sections, departments, or officers versus enlisted. Trash talk escalates fast because everyone knows each other and there's nothing else competing for attention. Card games never stop. Spades, cribbage, poker, dominoes, games that have kept sailors sane for centuries. Some games run for days with players rotating in and out between watches. Then there are study groups, sailors quizzing each other late into the night, half training, half social. On a submarine, qualification pressure never goes away, and studying becomes both work and distraction. Some submarines now have limited internet access, but expectations should stay low. Bandwidth is minimal. You can check email and read basic news updates, but there's no streaming and no social media. It's just enough connection to remind you how cut off you really are. The improvised gym. There is no real gym on a submarine, so sailors make one. Exercise equipment gets wedged wherever it fits. A stationary bike in a passageway, an elliptical near control spaces, a bench and weights in the torpedo room surrounded by actual weapons. Resistance bands hang from doorways, pull-up bars appear anywhere with enough overhead clearance. Bodyweight workouts happen in spaces so small sailors have to rotate in and out, and everything turns into a competition. Who does the most push-ups this patrol? Who logs the most miles on the bike? Watch section versus watch section. Department versus department. These simple challenges become major stress relief in a place with no sunlight and no privacy. The Navy supports this. Physical activity reduces stress, improves alertness, and helps fight boredom. That's why fitness challenges are encouraged and often funded. The crazy unofficial stuff. Then there's the unofficial entertainment, the creative, strange, sometimes ridiculous ways submariners keep themselves sane. Take angles and dangles. Officially, it's a drill where the submarine changes depth and angle to test stowage. The boat pitches sharply to make sure nothing breaks loose. Unofficially, some sailors treat it like a roller coaster. It's a rare physical sensation in an otherwise controlled environment, and many secretly enjoy it. There are also homemade carts. Using spare parts, sailors have been known to rig makeshift carts and ride them through machinery spaces when off watch. It's impractical and ridiculous, but after weeks of walking the same passageways, it feels like excitement. Competitions get stranger. Hot sauce challenges, speed card games, push-up contests in passageways, timed ladder climbs, plank contests that end when someone finally gives out. If it can be turned into a competition, submariners will compete at it. And then there are the pranks. Sending new sailors to find sound-powered phone batteries, asking for relative bearing grease, telling someone to check the boat's waterline. These aren't meant to be cruel. They're initiation rituals, ways to pass down culture, build bonds, and inject humor into a stressful environment. On a submarine, laughter isn't optional. It's survival. Why this matters. The operational threat. None of this is random. The Navy recognizes boredom and monotony as real risks. They contribute to stress, inattention, and mistakes. They hurt retention and degrade performance. So every card game, workout challenge, movie marathon, and bizarre contest serves a purpose. It keeps sailors engaged. It keeps them connected. It keeps them alert. Because the alternative is dangerous. A distracted watchstander can miss a critical reading. A rushed maintainer can skip a step. A tired sonar operator can miss a contact. And on a submarine, small mistakes can have serious consequences. That's why the Navy funds morale programs and tolerates creative outlets. They know boredom fighting measures directly improve safety and readiness. Specific examples of morale programs. This is how it shows up day to day. Holiday meals are a big deal. Thanksgiving and Christmas get special menus, decorations, and events. The goal isn't just good food, it's creating something that feels different. Steel beach events happen when conditions allow. Barbecue on the deck, music, sunlight, fresh air. Even brief exposure to the outside world has a huge effect on morale. Long-term fitness challenges run for entire deployments. Pull-ups, miles biked, plank times. These give sailors goals and a sense of progress. And then there are the inside jokes, nicknames, stories that get retold until they become legend. These shared experiences turn individuals into a crew. When boredom wins. When boredom isn't managed, the effects show. Retention drops. Sailors leave because they can't face another deployment. Mental health struggles increase. Depression, anxiety, and relationship stress. Mistakes become more common. Small errors stack up. Close calls happen. In the worst cases, safety incidents occur. Situations that put the boat and crew at risk. That's why boredom is taken seriously. Because on a submarine, it's not just uncomfortable. It's dangerous. The most effective tool, qualification. The most powerful boredom fighting tool isn't entertainment, it's qualification. The constant process of learning systems, standing watches, earning signatures, and advancing. It's exhausting, but it provides purpose. Qualification gives structure and goals. Even when every day looks the same, it creates progress. This is one of the strengths of submarine culture. The system that makes sailors more competent also helps keep them sane. But it only works if crews buy into it. When qualification becomes a source of pride, not just pressure, great crews make it part of their identity. The complete picture. So how do submariners fight boredom? They use official morale programs, they improvise gyms, they compete constantly, they watch movies, play games, pull pranks and invent strange challenges. But more than anything, they fight boredom with purpose, by mastering their jobs, by depending on each other, by becoming part of something bigger. Because boredom on a submarine isn't about having nothing to do, it's about losing purpose. The crews that thrive are the ones who create meaning in the steel tube, who turn confinement into challenge, who turn monotony into mission. And that's how you survive weeks underwater without losing your mind. So the next time you're bored scrolling your phone, remember, there are sailors right now, hundreds of feet below the surface, fighting a silent enemy the Navy takes very seriously. They fight it with games, workouts, jokes, qualifications, and crew culture. Because boredom on a submarine isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous, and the crazy ways submariners fight it aren't just stories. They're tactical responses to a real threat. Proof that even in extreme environments, people adapt, compete, laugh, and survive. That's what makes submarine service so brutal and so extraordinary. We are committed to releasing 3 videos a week. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more AnchorWatch.